Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating cultural shocks out there. If you've ever traveled to Japan or looked into global parenting styles, you've probably noticed something wild. Their kids are ultra-independent. So how did that actually happen? Are they just naturally more mature? Are their parents just less worried? Well, actually, the truth is way more structured and intentional than you might think. We're going to unpack the hidden framework that makes this incredible autonomy possible and see what it tells us about trust, community, and the psychology of raising truly capable people.
Let's start by picturing a scene that literally plays out every single morning across Japan. Imagine a tiny 6 or 7-year-old kid navigating a bustling city street totally on their own. They've got their bright yellow backpack on, they're casually greeting neighbors, and they're crossing busy intersections they've practiced a million times. It's just them, totally independent, heading straight to the school gates without an adult in sight.
Now, to a lot of us around the world, this kind of sudden autonomy sounds kind of impossible, right? Maybe even a little dangerous. I mean, in a lot of places, the typical morning routine is parents dragging the kids out of bed, packing their bags, driving them to school, and literally walking them right up to the front doors, usually while running 5 minutes late. But in Japan, the lack of hand-holding or GPS tracking isn't seen as neglectful at all. It's just a perfectly normal, everyday reality.
So, let's break this down, starting with layer 1, the home, and building independence gradually.
You see, this incredible freedom to roam the streets alone isn't some magical trait that just appears overnight. Instead, independence is treated like a staircase of small, practical tasks. Step 1, a young kid is expected to put away their own shoes. Step 2, they organize their own school supplies. Step 3, they're helping prepare meals or cleaning up shared spaces. And Step 4, carrying their own belongings. None of these tasks are really a big deal on their own, but stacked together, they form a massive, critical foundation.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, putting away shoes is just a chore, but these actions serve a much deeper psychological purpose. Every single time a child checks off one of these small tasks, it reinforces a super powerful, unspoken message. You are capable. And when kids repeatedly live out that message, they actually start to believe it. Their internal confidence is growing right alongside their daily responsibilities.
Basically, parents are laying the psychological groundwork for what experts call self-efficacy. And that's really just a fancy term for the deep-seated belief that, yes, you can successfully handle challenges. Long before that kid ever steps out the front door to navigate a busy city, their parents have been incredibly intentional about building up this rock-solid belief in their own competence.
Moving right along to layer 2, the community and the invisible safety net. Once that child actually leaves the house, if we zoom out, we can see how the entire neighborhood functions as a collective guardian. That kid walking down the street, they aren't actually alone at all. They're passing local shop owners sweeping out front, retired neighbors working in their gardens, crossing guards, teachers, parent volunteers, the whole shebang. They're wrapped in this unspoken cultural agreement where literally everyone in the neighborhood keeps a watchful eye out. There's this profound understanding in Japan that children belong to the community as a whole. This massive community-wide safety net means if a kid looks lost, boom, someone steps in to help. If they drop something, a local shop owner notices. If they need to cross a chaotic intersection, a trusted adult is almost always right there. It totally flips our perception. To an outsider, sure, the child appears alone, but they are absolutely not truly alone. An entire community is quietly backing them up from the sidelines.
And that brings us to layer 3, the school, serving as the training grounds for practical navigation.
Japanese schools don't just focus on math and reading. They explicitly teach kids how to safely navigate the real world. We're talking learning specific walking routes, they practice safety procedures rigorously, they foster group responsibility, and really focus on developing community awareness. Honestly, schools often even organize the younger kids into walking groups, which completely transforms the daily commute into a daily learning experience. They are constantly practicing how to exist safely out in public.
Now let's look at the overarching philosophy, redefining child safety.
When you pull all these layers together, what it really boils down to is 2 vastly different cultural definitions of what it means to be safe. A super common approach globally is removing challenges, eliminating every single risk to protect the child. But the Japanese philosophy, it's all about preparing children for those challenges. Instead of constantly shielding kids from every potential hazard out there, the overarching goal is to actually teach them how to navigate those hazards responsibly. This philosophical contrast literally changes everything. It's the difference between saying, hey, let me do this for you, and saying, let me teach you how to do it yourself. It is a fundamental shift from parental micromanagement to actively empowering the child with lifelong competence. And over time, these tiny shifts in daily interactions create incredibly different outcomes for a kid's development. A really great way to think about this is like learning to ride a bike. A kid doesn't just magically know how to pedal and balance on day one, right? First, they practice. Inevitably, they wobble. Sometimes, yeah, they fall. But through that exact process, they learn, and finally, they gain confidence. The architecture of Japanese independence works the exact same way. Giving children the space to try, to make mistakes, and to learn from them is absolutely crucial. That's what builds a rock-solid foundation of true self-reliance.
And this leads us to a pretty profound insight. We often assume that kids need to be highly confident before we can safely give them independence. But actually, scratch that. The inverse is true. The independence has to come first to build the confidence. When you trust a child with meaningful responsibility, whether it's managing their shoes at the door or walking all the way to school, they begin to trust themselves. And that self-trust, it ripples out, affecting their problem-solving, their emotional resilience, the whole 9 yards.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think back to your own childhood. At what age were you allowed to go somewhere completely on your own? And looking at the world today, would you trust your child, or even your community, with that same level of responsibility? The Japanese model is a fascinating reminder that capable adults are created by giving children the opportunity to practice being capable. Really makes you think, doesn't it?